At the Boston Children's Chorus, we come together because we believe in the community building power of music, particularly its ability to connect us more deeply to each other. We were started about 10 years ago by a social worker who had had several attempts at building organizations tackling the same issue of bringing Boston's diverse communities and siloed communities together. And he had tried everything and decided that perhaps music would be, particularly kids singing, might be a way to connect Boston and its diverse community. So we're now in our 10th season. We serve about 500 singers from over 80 different communities. They're in 12 choirs in 5 locations, and they're in age range from 7 to 18. We were founded on the basis that we wanted to unite Boston's diverse communities. Boston is a place that has a history of racial discord and social unrest, dating back to the busing issues many, many years ago, but also very recently with the issue that happened with Professor Skip Gates and the officer. So, you know, Boston has a tarnished image, and we are hoping to change that through the power of kids singing. So the issue is that we live in silos. We don't have a chance to connect with each other. We don't have a chance to understand who we are, and thus we are preventing our communities from being as dynamic and vibrant as they could be if we were to connect with each other. So our issue is that we want to bring people together, break down those barriers that divide us, whether it be race, whether it be a geographic, whether it be socioeconomic issues, so that we can develop a common language and get to know each other, get to know each other's cultures, get to know each other's histories. A lot of people talk about diversity, engaging communities, however their organizations don't reflect that same diversity that they're trying to build externally. And so from the very beginning, we were very clear that as an organization that was trying to champion diversity and the beauty of the common humanity, we had to reflect that in our personnel, in our board, and in our constituents. So we have an incredibly diverse board and a diverse staff, because it's important for the kids that we're serving to see themselves in the organization. So that's one way that has been very consistent, and it's a challenge. We have to make sure that we're maintaining that diversity at all times, not only in our personnel but also in where we're performing. We can't only perform in sort of the upper ends of the community. We have to be in all parts of the community to be relevant and to actually be important to what's happening on the ground in those various communities. So those are two things. The other thing that has changed over time is the transparency and the engagement of the constituents. When we first started, it was very much, we're the adults and you're the singers, and you know, we'd tell you how to do it. But now it's much more iterative process. We're engaging them. Singers are involved in committee meetings with our board members. They're presenting at our board level. We're listening to them. We have focus groups whenever we're making any major decisions for their organization. For example, we just unveiled a new brand identity, and a lot of organizations would have made that a board activity, but we took that opportunity not only to engage our singers and our donors and our parents and some of our funders and some of the other community organizations to really inform that process, so that we're not projecting and saying this is what we think you want, but we're actually listening to you and engaging that process. So that level of transparency and opening up the organization for our constituents to be involved has evolved over time, and something that we're continuing to sort of open up to our audiences, and so that they can actually see who we are as an organization, and that we're not just this presenting organization that you're just seeing the outward facing, but we want you to become intimate and be a part of the decision making process in a meaningful way as well. There are a couple of myths that exist in the world of youth arts, and particularly in singing. And one is that children or youth cannot perform at high levels of art. And so as an organization that's in a city that's entrenched and sort of saturated with great arts programming at the adult and youth level, it was really trying to position ourselves as a new organization, as one that was artistically vibrant and relevant. And so trying to debunk the myth of this notion that kids can't sing at high levels of art is a barrier that we have had to deal with. It has impacted audiences because people don't think, people who attend perhaps the BSO or the symphony or the opera or the ballet don't naturally think, oh, let me buy a ticket to the Boston Children's Chorus, because it's seen as a different level of art. And what we're trying to do is say that these kids can command the same type of attention and artistic wherewithal as some of the adults. And I think also the challenge is being meaningfully being a part of the community, and not just being seen as a performing organization, but one that is really entrenched and not only culturally and artistically vibrant, but also socially, particularly as we're looking at issues that we're facing, that our kids are facing, that we're actually present in the community and seen as a part of the community, and not just an organization that sort of descends upon the community when it's time to perform, but that we're actually engaging in. And that's incredibly challenging when you've got performances going on, you've got to run the programs, but not forgetting that you're here to serve the community in various ways, and you can very quickly sort of disengage. And the opportunity, as I see it, is really to go deeper and form those alliances and strategic relationships with folks in the various communities. We are relatively new to the field, but I believe that there has been a sense of respect that we've been awarded and granted by our peers in the field, seen because we're doing something slightly different, and it sort of has propelled us to almost in a leadership role in a way. And again, it's something I say humbly because, you know, we're learning from other organizations who've done it so well with a slightly different spin. And in fact, there are organizations over time who've called us. We've called organizations, how do you do it? How can we learn from you? And vice versa, organizations are calling us to say, how are you doing what you're doing in Boston? You're bringing these kids from so many different backgrounds. You're getting them into a level of excellence at a very fast pace. How is that happening? How are you engaging those communities? How are you attracting kids who are not typically seen in youth in choruses? So there are probably 3 or 4 choruses around the country who we've consulted with over time and have built their model based on our organization. And very recently there's an internationally acclaimed symphony orchestra that has engaged us to help them think about building a chorus within their organization that will drive kids to the arts experience, whether it be playing an instrument or singing.